Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Take Three podcast. My name is Brandon, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Alex. And in this episode, we're going to be covering week two preview. It's now Wednesday night. Obviously, week kicks off Thursday night football. We got Giants heading into Washington. It should be, I don't know if I'm going to say a fun one, but it's football to watch. I love being able to watch football. And then obviously we got the big slate coming Sunday, and it feels good to look forward now. Looking every weekend, we know we're going to get NFL football and something that just means something to everybody. So before we really jump into this thing, what really stands out to you through one week, and how excited are you going into week two?
I'm very excited going into week two. A few things surprised me in week one. We talked about it yesterday in the previous episode, the AFC South not looking good and some other things. But in general, not too many surprising things, kind of what I expected. It's just fun to see as the season goes on. We learn more about these teams and see how they're actually going to play and see who's really good and who's really not.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird to sit back and judge these teams after only one game, but you kind of get that insight because I mean, obviously adjustments will be made by certain teams. The better teams will make adjustments, kind of figure out what they need to do, what they didn't do in week one. And then you got other teams that they'll just be stuck in the mud for the rest of the year. So it's tough to judge teams, but it's exciting to go forward and see another week. And then we can really get a better mental image of how these teams are going to look going forward. And I guess without further ado, we'll jump straight into it. We'll jump into Thursday night football. We got Daniel Jones and the Giants, the G-men, 0-1, both 0-1. The Giants headed down to Washington, take on Chase Young and that defense. Taylor Heineke is now in. Obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick with the hip injury. I believe he's going to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks is what I saw. Just off the radar, Antonio Gibson's a little banged up as well. I believe he's been limited all week, so I don't know really what's kind of going on with that. Obviously, they're still missing Curtis Samuel. So, I mean, as you kind of unpackage this game, how are you feeling? I know we were both sort of big on the Washington football team going in. Are you a little concerned about them? I mean, Taylor Heineke, people I know Redskins fans that are like, yeah, we can still do this. He can still be the guy, but it's kind of concerning that if he was really the guy, he would have been starting last week, right? Ryan Fitzpatrick would not have been the starter week one. He would have beat him out in camp. So I would say, just for me, I'm kind of concerned, but I'm interested to hear what you think about Washington, as you did have them winning the division.
Yeah, I really liked Washington heading into the season. Like you said, I had them as division winners. I'm a little concerned. Ryan Fitzpatrick banged up, not going to play. And then Heineke. I think the Washington fans are just banking on that Tampa Bay wildcard game from last year because Heineke did look good. But it was kind of like, it wasn't like it was big plays. They had a couple drives where they got the ball down and scored in that game. But the offense wasn't explosive or anything. I don't know. I expect Washington to take care of things at home on Thursday night, but something about Daniel Jones and the Giants. That's like Washington's the one team Daniel Jones beats consistently, which is kind of strange. So I'm expecting a competitive close game. I wouldn't say the game's going to be very exciting at all. The over and under is only at 40 points. I think it's the lowest of the week. So I think it's going to be like a defensive battle, and not because the offenses are I would just say the offenses are not very good. So we're going to see some sloppy football and just a lot of punts, I feel like.
Yeah, you kind of saw an anemic offense out of Washington. They only mustered up 259 yards, which can't be really. I don't know. That's really a good sign considering they invested into. I mean, Curtis Samuel didn't play, but Terry McLaurin going in when they had Fitz, they kind of assumed, hey, we're going to be able to take the tops off and we're going to be able to take some shots downfield and really kind of stretch out defenses. And through one week, we really didn't see that. And then you kind of see the other side of the football. Yeah, the Giants kind of had that same issue. It's Jason Garrett's play calling is kind of questionable. I believe at one point against the Broncos, they threw, I think it was just one pass downfield, and it was a nice completion. But then I saw many Giants fans on Twitter saying, why didn't we go back to that? Why didn't we see that anymore? So it's interesting to see if the Washington football team, if they can get kind of that passing attack going. Antonio Gibson had a decent day, so I assume they'll be able to churn out some yards on the ground. And then for the Giants, I'm just interested to see if they can really get Saquon rolling, because if they can get him rolling, it really takes pressure off of Daniel Jones, and it's less reads. And for me, I mean, I look at this game and it's kind of what QB is going to give it away. I think both teams have pretty fairly good defensive units. The Giants kind of hurts a little bit because Daniel Jones with turnovers and their offense really isn't that there, so they're out there quite a bit, and kind of they don't have the star power, I would say, that Washington has up front to really attack quarterbacks. But Yeah, I think it's going to come down to what quarterback can play a clean game and kind of give their team the best shot to win. In my opinion, if Daniel Jones can play clean, he's 4-0 against the Washington in his career. I almost said Redskins by accident. But he's 4-0 against them and then 6-20 against everybody else. So as you said, the Washington football team, that's one team that somehow Daniel Jones can beat. So I mean, maybe teams in the future, if Daniel Jones doesn't work out in New York, they'll bring him in just for Washington games and kind of scratch out wins against them. But yeah, I'm not really super confident on each side, I'd say.
No, and then the Giants O line always concerns me, and then when you play a D line like Washington has, it doesn't make me comfortable. I just don't know which way to lean. I think it's gonna be a close game because it's a divisional game. I would go with Washington because I think they're a better team and they're at home. So hopefully they can bounce back and get on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, just one stat on that. The Daniel Jones only sacked 2 times in week 1 against the stout Broncos defense. We kind of know what the Broncos defense does. So it's going to be similar looks going into week 2. We know what the Washington's front 4, front 7 can really get after quarterbacks. So I mean, that's got to be a good sign if you're a Giants fan that he's really not sitting back there taking hits. But they definitely got the passing game going. They got to try to find a way to get Saquon back because we know how dynamic he is. And if they can get him rolling along with Daniel Jones playing clean, they could be in shape to steal one big division game on the road. Any kind of closing thoughts on this one before we jump ahead?
The only thing that comes to mind with that stat, so if the O-line is playing pretty well, but they're still turning it over and like the Giants really can't move the ball, it's kind of just an indictment on Daniel Jones, and the Giants might just be looking for a quarterback next year because with a bad offensive line, that's like a built-in excuse for your guy. But if they're playing well or like they're not giving up sacks and stuff, then there's kind of a common denominator. So it's just interesting to see for the Giants, like sake of their full season, because there's like a very pivotal year for them.
Yeah, if you're a Giants fan, you got to be happy. Danny Dimes, no picks week 1, but he did have a fumble and lost a fumble week 1. So I mean, there's work to be done. But I mean, I guess if you're a Giants fans that thinks they're going to go 10-7 still, just try to scratch out. It starts here, I guess. But let's swing over to the next game on the docket. It's going to be another divisional game, super interesting one. We got the 0-1 Buffalo Bills. I didn't really think I'd be saying that, to be honest, after week 1, traveling down to Miami to take on Tua Tagovailoa. I probably botched that name, but taking on Tua and the Dolphins, Brian Flores and that defense. It's kind of a big game early for Buffalo. They don't want to. I don't think you want to start 0-2. If you're the Buffalo Bills, you kind of want to get Josh Allen back to that MVP form. They kind of had a good, solid run game week 1 against the Steelers, and then they kind of just got shut down. The Steelers defense showed up, make plays, and really changed the game. So what do you see going into this one? I know you're this was one of them that you picked. So what do you see going into this?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting game because the Dolphins have a really good opportunity to kind of create some like space between them and the rest of the teams in their division. They escaped last Sunday with the win against New England with that Damian Harris fumble at the end. Buffalo, they surprisingly had a home loss to start the season. So now Miami's potentially looking at starting the season 2-0 with 2 division wins, which would be a pretty big deal. I think it's gonna be very hard to do. It is in Miami, so that helps. It's just Buffalo is a very good football team. I'm surprised they lost week 1. I'd be very shocked if they start the season 0-2. But it is on the road for Buffalo in Miami against a divisional opponent, and Miami has done nothing but improve week to week from the start of last year. So the first time they played the Bills last year, it was a field goal game. The second time it was week 17, so it doesn't really count. And I think it's going to be an extremely close game. I would lean towards Buffalo because they're just a better football team. But if I'm betting the spread, I really like Miami +3 or 3.5, whatever it is, because they're at home. And I just think it'll be like a field goal game. I think it all depends on Josh Allen and that offense if they can get that going again. Because granted, Pittsburgh is an extremely good defensive unit. They had some struggles last week.
Yeah, I like exactly how you broke it down. It's kind of a big one for Miami. If Miami can start out 2-0, take a game from Buffalo, it kind of shows that, hey, Miami's like, they're legit. Like they're going to be here this year, like Tua and those guys. they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for the season. And then if you're on the other side of Buffalo, you just got to get that explosiveness back. They didn't really have that. I guess you can credit that to the Steelers defense, that they're pretty stingy, right? They're not going to let up, but they're not going to let up big plays. They're going to get after the quarterback. And it's kind of interesting to see them face two different styles, how Pittsburgh kind of comes out and attacks the quarterback. You look at the Dolphins, they rely on that secondary when you have Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, and those guys on the back end. I mean, I'm with you though. I kind of think it'll be a good one, but I'm going to kind of lean with Josh Allen just because I feel like if I'm going to take one of the two guys to kind of make me a play late in the game to kind of steal or seal a game, I'm going to roll with Josh Allen. I'm going to assume that Sean McDermott gets his guys rolling. Because as we saw, Mac Jones didn't really have trouble attacking that secondary, so I'd expect there to be plays there for Josh Allen. And as we saw, they kind of got chewed up a little bit on the ground by Damian Harris. So if I believe it, who is it? Devin Singletary. If they can get him going and then get that offense going, kind of stretch him out, get Stephon Diggs back to what he was doing last year. Yeah, I love it. I think it's high stakes early week 2. It sounds weird to say high stakes early in week 2, but there's a lot on the line for both of these teams.
It's just Buffalo. I just don't see Buffalo being an 0-2 football team. If they're the team that we all think they are from last year, and they're just so much better, like depth-wise. They're better. I still think they're a better football team than Pittsburgh. You got to give Pittsburgh credit. They played a really good game last week. They got the W. Good for them. But I still think Buffalo is a better team on a neutral field, and they're better than Miami. So, I have a hard time seeing them go 0-2. Crazier things have happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo came out and end up winning by a touchdown, but I do think it'll be close.
Yeah, I love it. You hate to say 2 weeks in, are they a fluke from last year? Are they a 1-year wonder? But I mean, that question will surely get answered at 1:00 on Sunday afternoon. So I'm surely, I'll probably have it tuned in. I'll be excited to see what both of these teams can do. Let's jump into the next game on the slate that we're going to talk about. We got the Los Angeles Rams, fresh off their Sunday night kind of explosive victory over the Bears and Andy Dalton. They head on the road to take on Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts. Kind of not really an ideal debut for Carson Wentz. I mean, if you're a box scores guy, you probably say, hey, it wasn't Carson Wentz's fault. But then when you kind of watch the game, and I was watching it quite a bit, he was holding onto the football, sitting back there, taking hits, and he just didn't seem like he doesn't seem like he's willing to like roll out and make plays on the feet, which you saw in 2017, which made him such an elite quarterback then. It kind of seems like he doesn't really have that in him. And then obviously we saw Matt Stafford, hell of a debut in LA. So what do you really see? It's a big one. I would say very big one for Indianapolis. It's kind of Carson Wentz gets a fresh shot with Frank Reich. And if he kind of goes out and starts 0-2, it's like, shit, are we not, was this a bad decision bringing this guy in? And how quickly will things start to spiral in Indianapolis if they start 0-2 and start trending downwards?
Yeah, we've already seen some Carson Wentz history in Philadelphia where things start going bad and Carson says the right things at the podium, but his style of play and the way he plays never changes. It kind of just gets worse. Indianapolis, I'm worried for him. I lost a lot of confidence from him from doing the season preview to just week 1. And I don't want to overreact. It's just one game, but Carson held on to the ball for a while. He made some poor reads. He just doesn't extend plays like he used to. And there was always this idea of like, if he can return to form. But that's 4 seasons ago now. That's 4 years ago. 2017 was a while ago. He's played plenty since then. He's never, even when he played well, I think it's the end of 2019 where he ran off 4 in a row against the bad NFC East opponents to make the playoffs. And then we lost to Seattle in the wild card. He got hurt. But even when he was playing then, like the peak play then was never the 2017 peak play. And Carson's just never been able to return to form. And it just worries me because that offensive line is very, very good in Indianapolis and they have a very good defensive unit. So he has a really good roster supporting him. But if you can't really figure it out with that roster, I'd be worried. And then the Rams just look great. That's like maybe the best defense in the league. Very good unit. The offense can like push the ball down in the field. They can run it pretty well too. I like the Rams a lot in this game. Heading into this season, I probably would have felt better about Indianapolis and maybe even took them at home. But seeing them last week against Seattle and like their 2 home games, so I thought that would help. I just don't have a lot of confidence in Indianapolis right now. Don't want to overreact because they could easily come out and play well and win this football game at home. But I honestly feel like the Rams are going to go in there and take care of business because I feel like the Colts are one of those teams that are like on paper could be a contender, but they're more – it doesn't really work out that way. And I think the Rams are a legitimate contender.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I think, I mean, if the Colts are going to be what they're going to be, they got to find a way to get Jonathan Taylor and get something a little bit more out of the backfield. Jonathan Taylor, 17 carries for 56 yards. So he's only getting 3 a carry. It's kind of like, that was kind of the way I thought the Colts would play, right? Try to run heavy, kind of have Carson Wentz sit back there and make the easiest of easy throws. But obviously, I mean, when you're down, I think they were down 21-10. Yeah, 21-10 to Seattle through the half. It kind of, you got to throw the ball. You got to throw the ball to get back in the game. They're kind of not going to let you just run. And then obviously you mentioned the Rams defense and what they bring to the table. They're going to come after it. Aaron Donald's going to come after Carson Wentz whenever he wants. You got Jalen Ramsey back there in the secondary, so it could get very scary. Carson Wentz 27.5 QBR in that week 1 game against Seattle. And we said, even in our preview, Seattle's secondary, iffy, if best. Their whole defense kind of iffy at best. And Carson Wentz holding onto the ball kind of made that defense look way better than it really is. And then as you hit it nail on the head, the Rams offense just looks as deadly as it's ever been. I mean, Matt Stafford's really the guy that I think Sean McVay has been dying to have for years now. Cannon arm that can really stretch the field out completely, gives him that zone run with Darrell Henderson. And yeah, they're just lethal. And kind of, yeah, Indianapolis's defense really wasn't as great through week 1 as I really thought they would be able to be.
Yeah, and the running point is a good point because I really thought, like you said, they would just run the ball with Jonathan Taylor and let him control the offense and take the pressure off Carson, given his career history and all the doubters and everything, and like the mental aspect. Just let Carson, hey, just show up, make good reads, easy passes, make him feel good, build the confidence again. Not a good start for it, and it's a lot different with Aaron Donald rushing you, and then like if you can't get the run game going well and attack Seattle's defense well, it's going to be much tougher against the Rams. So I don't know. I just don't have a lot of confidence in the Colts going into Sunday.
No, I think their defense will get kind of stretched out and abused. I think Cooper Kupp will have a field day. I mean, Tyler Lockett and DK were having a field day, and Chris Carson was having as well. So I think the zone run with Sean McVay's offense will really, it will just tear them to bits, if I'm being honest. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be more pressure ratcheted up on Carson Wentz, and we got to kind of sit back and see if he can still be that guy. I mean, they brought him in to kind of be that franchise savior or franchise quarterback, and this is going to be one of those games where he's going to kind of have to put the team on his back. And I mean, I don't really have faith. I don't really have any positive thing to say, except it'll be interesting. As you said, preseason, I kind of would have been very high on Indianapolis. But after watching the old, is the same Carson Wentz show that I saw for the last 2 years in Philadelphia when he was here, it was kind of, there's more of the same. I didn't really see any adjustments in his game. And it was pretty surprising, to be honest. Everybody really said Frank Reich would be the man to kind of fix him and change his mentality. And we really didn't see that at all. Any really closing thoughts on this one?
No, I've just been fooled enough by Carson Wentz. As an Eagles fan, I really believed in him. I was a big fan of the guy for a while, and I thought he could return to form. And there's always the excuses of injuries, this is that, but like he's never truly gotten back to where he was. So I don't have a lot of faith in Carson. I wish him the best. Hopefully he plays well, but I think it's going to be all Rams on Sunday.
Yeah, tremendous talent, tremendous arm talent. Just got to get the mentals in order, and I mean, we'll continue to see because it's not going to get easier. As losses pile up, the questions pile up, and it doesn't get easier on Frank Reich and Wentz. But let's move on to the next game on the slate. We have another AFC South team playing another NFC West team. We got Tennessee 0-1, kind of got really bruised and battered against the Arizona Cardinals in week 1. That was kind of really a surprising game. They got beat down bad 38-13. And then the Seattle Seahawks went on the road, took care of business. Russell Wilson sitting back saying, everybody's doubting me. Everybody's saying, I want out. I can't do this. I don't want to be part of this team. He proved everybody wrong. 4 touchdowns, no picks, clean game. Really had his way with Indianapolis's defense. I mean, me looking into this one, this is a big one a huge one for Tennessee. You never want to start 0-2, and it's kind of, they have to find a way to get Derrick Henry going. They couldn't get Derrick Henry going at all against the Arizona Cardinals. Credit to their defensive front. I mean, they revamped that. They had Chandler Jones, JJ Watt doing their thing and really shutting down that run game, but that kind of controls their whole offense. That sets up the play action with Ryan Tannehill to set him up for easier throws to get Julio Jones and AJ Brown involved. And I'm just super interested to see. I trust Mike Vrabel to not have a letdown twice in a row. He's a good enough head coach. He's shown us he's a good enough head coach, but it's big. This is a crucial week 2 game for this team to kind of see where they're going to be this year. It's kind of surprising how they got abused last week. How do you feel going into week 2 about Tennessee heading into Seattle?
Tennessee makes me really nervous just because of how bad they looked last week. I'm going to take the bait in spread wise. I have Tennessee plus 5.5 because I think they'll bounce back. They may not win the football game, but I think they'll look much better and be competitive. I have a hard time believing they'll get blown out 2 weeks in a row, but you never know. Tennessee just makes me nervous. Seattle's secondary is so bad. Like, yes, get Derrick Henry going for sure. That is like the heart of the offense. But like I would expect it to be an AJ Brown, Julio Jones game. Like this would be the game they show how lethal that combo actually can be because they should be attacking Seattle through the air and their cornerback. So we'll see if they actually get that done. It's all about that Taylor Lewan and that offensive line. Like if they need to be able to block because they got absolutely dominated last week, and Taylor Lewan owned up to it. He'll tell you that he was dominated by Chandler Jones. So like Tennessee just makes me nervous. I like Mike Vrabel. I think they have enough poise as a team, enough veterans, and like this is the 3rd year in a row with Tannehill so they've had enough success. They've been there. I think they'll play much better. I just would be shocked if they come out and look terrible again. The silver lining for them and the Indianapolis Colts is they're like the only competition in that division. I do not believe Houston or Jacksonville has a chance against those two teams. So like, the beauty is both those teams could start 0-2, and luckily they're in the same division with each other. So like an 0-2 start does not sink either team, but it's kind of interesting that they could both be 0-2 and like be right there in the thick of it.
I just don't know if they both start 0-2. Are we going to say that that's the worst division now? Like the NFC East gets a lot of flack, but are we gonna start saying, hey, the AFC South might suck a little bit worse? You know, I mean, we got the two teams that we're considering the heavy favorites are both 0-2. It's just super interesting, but yeah, you kind of hit it on. I don't know. It really comes down to that O-line, like you said. I would assume they maybe try to get the passing going more, but it's like if Ryan Tannehill doesn't really have the time because the O-line's just getting chewed up, they'll probably go run heavy. I kind of don't expect them to abandon their run heavy approach because it's kind of how they run everything. So I would expect them to kind of come out. I think they'll come out more focused. They kind of looked caught off guard. I guess they didn't expect Arizona to really be that game on the road week 1. And they were just like, oh shit, like these guys they're for real. Like we heard a lot about them and now they're here. They had trouble chasing down Kyler Murray. That kind of worries me because Russell Wilson, we know he can do the same things and he's kind of more poised as a passer. He's more polished. I like to say I trust Russell Wilson more at this point than I would Kyler Murray. And we saw the success that Kyler Murray had. So, I mean, it's weird. I kind of think they might go out and get into an air attack, but I think it's smarter to try to get your offensive line run block and control the ball, keep Russell Wilson off the field and kind of take the life out of the 12th man. Is that stadium's going to be rocking, right? Like it's the first time in a year that they've had a packed house in Seattle going crazy. So they're going to be dying to dial up the noise and kind of mess with the play calling.
Oh, for sure. And Seattle will be ready to go. The question is at Tennessee. It's almost like last week Tennessee thought they could just show up and win the game because they were at home and they had a lot of hype. So I just don't think they'll lay an egg 2 weeks in a row. They might not win the game, but I certainly think they'll be competitive this time around because like you can't get embarrassed like that 2 weeks in a row.
It's facts. I expect a much cleaner football game out of the Titans, and for sure, I'd say a close one. I'd say a field goal game. Like this will be a good one on the day. We'll see the Titans come back and bounce back. Now let's jump into really the last game or the last afternoon game that we're going to cover on the Sunday slate. Super interesting one. Probably the one that I'm most a fan of. It sounds weird saying that as an Eagles fan, but it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys. They go on their second straight road game. Obviously, they lost close one. The Thursday night one, the opening night to the Tampa Bay Bucks. That was a great game. I didn't expect it to be that great. It was great. Dak looked great. It kind of hurts to say this stuff, but Dak looked phenomenal. That offense looked phenomenal. Even that defense looked good. It was just one where they gave Tom Brady too much time, and they go on the road to face the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, Justin Herbert and his boys got out with a W in Washington, close one. I'm just interested to see what kind of game plan Kellen Moore is going to come out with week 2. Are they going to try to get they're going to get Zeke more involved? Are they going to try to go more run heavy, kind of run the football, not throw the ball? I think they threw it 58 times in week 1, not really have Dak drop back that many times, but they lost. I know La'el Collins, who refused to show up for a drug test. He's out for 5 games. So they're kind of in a weird spot. heading out to Los Angeles. What do you see when you look at this matchup?
I really like this game from like a DFS prop standpoint because I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I really like all of Dallas's games this year just because of their offense for fantasy wise, and then when you pair them with a lethal offense like the Chargers, you can get a really fun game. Just like when they played the Bucks, you get a fun shootout.
I think we're having some technical difficulties.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
sorry about that. I'll just kind of repeat. I really like it from the DFS fantasy perspective, and then from real football, it's all about Dak Prescott and that offense, and then it's that O line against that D line. So, like you said, they lost Lyle Collins. You're going against Bosa and the boys, so I'm just really interested to see how it's going to play out. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep the pressure on the Chargers enough, and then if the defense can actually force turnovers. Because when they played the Bucks, the defense kind of got bailed out a few times with those forced fumbles and interceptions. So it's like I don't know if the Chargers offense will give it up that much because I don't think it was a thing of Dallas being defensively being like studs. It was more of like they just made big plays in certain moments, and I don't know if that's sustainable throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't know if you really want Dak Prescott dropping back that much, and if that same style of game plan is going to work on the defense like the Chargers. It's just super interesting. Yeah, it's going to be. I don't know if I mean it probably will be high scoring because you know what the Dallas Cowboys are trying to do. They're going to try and use Gallup. They're going to try and use Amari. They're going to get the tight end going. They're going to get CD Lamb, and they're kind of going to go out there, sling the rock, and just kind of play that backyard football style. But yeah, I mean, I think when you look at week one, it was I always thought it was a closer game because of how sloppy Tampa played. Chris Godwin fumble, Leonard Fournette ball bounces off the hands. Ronald Jones coughs one up. So it's kind of more possessions that Tampa really gave Dallas. And it's like, if they don't have those possessions, I'm pretty confident that it's a 10 or 14 point win for the Buccaneers. And we're not even saying what a great game it was, but obviously that's in the past. Yeah, I mean, I want to see more Justin Herbert. I want to see kind of what they can do more. And then it's a big one for Dallas to not start 0-2 right before you head into a big division game and finally head home. It's going to be interesting. I want to see what type of game plan, if they're going to employ that same game plan where they use that screen pass style to really essentially be their run game, or if they're going to try and pound the rock a little bit more heavy. Zach Martin's back, so that kind of helps them on the inside, where maybe that wasn't in week one, where they can really pound the inside run game and kind of keep Justin Herbert and really protect that defense. Because that defense really didn't, they kind of got gifted turnovers, right? I mean, the one was a good one. The punch out on Ronald Jones was good, but Chris Godwin getting sloppy with the football, you're not going to see that really every week out of every team. But yeah, so we got to see what their defense can do and kind of that offensive style. And obviously the ascension of Justin Herbert, if he can keep it going, it's going to be big things in LA Charger land with that Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and those guys. They look stout in week one. So we got to see if Dak can kind of crack that code.
Exactly, and if the defense can keep the turnovers.
Yeah. Well, let's transition. We're straight going into Sunday night football. We got really a barn burner of a matchup. I'd say it's going to be super fun. I expected. We got the Kansas City Chiefs 1-0. Just played a thriller against another NFC North team, Cleveland Browns, obviously 33-29 victory. And then they're going into Baltimore, hostile environment. Baltimore always has pretty raucous crowd. Those guys like to go crazy, super faithful fan base. And they're going to be taking on Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. When it comes down to me, I'm worried about Baltimore's defense, how they're going to hold up, how they're going to handle Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson. Who else did I mention? Tyreek Hill. Like, just how they're going to really handle all those weapons and really the ability they're facing a more dangerous quarterback. They're facing arguably the most talented quarterback in the game right now from top to bottom. When you see what Patrick Mahomes can kind of do, being able to extend plays And I'm just worried what Baltimore is going to be able to do on the offense side of the ball. They found a way to get it done, but it's like the Chiefs are going to come out game, right? Like that's the AFC favorites. They're going to come into Baltimore game ready to go and ready to show that they're right back. I mean, it's their year again. Baltimore can't compete with them, and I believe Patrick Mahomes hasn't lost to Lamar and the Ravens since he's been starter. I think he's kind of owned Lamar in Baltimore, so it'll be interesting to see kind of if Lamar can break that trend. As it's really going to be him. It's kind of weird. It's weird. I mean, they have Sammy Watkins. They got to get Mark Andrews more involved. There's a lot more question marks that I have about the Ravens than I do about the Kansas City Chiefs going into this.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in Baltimore for this game at all. Their offense didn't look great on Monday Night Football against the Raiders. The defense was gassed by the fourth quarter, and when you're playing the Chiefs, it's just a whole different ball game. The Chiefs constantly beat Lamar Jackson's Ravens, and I just don't think this game's going to be as close as like Vegas says it will be. I just don't see how the defense with the injuries can keep up, and then I don't see how the offense can score enough points because like they had trouble moving the ball at times against the Raiders, and I just think it's going to be so much harder against the Chiefs. I honestly feel like the Chiefs take this game by 2 possessions.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs will be out there and just kind of sling on you got to see what John Harbaugh kind of dials up. It was weird seeing a team in week one with a full off season get that gassed, but I guess that can be when your offense kind of slows down in the fourth quarter and is really just putting you back on the field and back on the field and back on the field and not being able to take some pressure off you. They kind of missed those backs. They missed J.K. Dobbins. There was a lot of Lamar Jackson hero ball trying to just really do things, and it really didn't work out. So yeah, I mean, I'm right on boat with you. Vegas sees it as a field goal game kind of. Yeah, it's going to be close, but I don't really see it. I see the Chiefs kind of and Patrick Mahomes having their way. I don't see they just have too much on offense, right? That revamped O line, like they're just good to go. They're right back. Yeah, right back where we all saw them going to be. I'm really at a loss for words, but yeah, I don't think the Ravens with all the injuries can compete.
Yeah, Vegas isn't wrong often, but I think they're wrong in this scenario. And like last year when they played, they had the Chiefs coming in as a dog, which I thought was crazy as well. It's just one of those few scenarios where I think it should be close on paper, but I really don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, too many injuries, and just Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid are that good. They're going to find a way to exploit those holes in the game and really keep Lamar on wraps. It'll be interesting though if Lamar could somehow steal this game. I'd be amazed. I mean, he'd get my props for sure. We got to move on to the final game. It's Monday Night Football. We got the Detroit Lions fresh off their 41-33 loss to the 49ers, where they kind of really put it together in the fourth. I personally didn't watch, but I don't know. I kind of saw it 41-17. I was like, that's a wrap. And then I see the Lions are somehow about to back to recover and maybe send the game to OT. It was it was weird. And then obviously Green Bay Packers, as you can see, my man Aaron Rodgers looking up saying, damn, we're getting smoked. They get rolled in Jacksonville by the Saints. Amazing performance by the Saints. 38-3. He got benched. Obviously, they just didn't want him out there taking hits for no reason. Division game, I mean, it's kind of one where I don't really have much to say, but you kind of expect Green Bay. They're at home. Lambeau Field's going to be popping on a primetime game. And you kind of expect, I would say, Aaron Rodgers and that offense to regroup, get things together, and kind of dot it up. You expect beat up Lions secondary, beat up defense, that Aaron Rodgers on paper will have his way. Him and Devontae Adams, if I had to say it, I would expect a big day out of both. But what do you see?
Yeah, this game to me is all about the Packers, considering how bad they were last week. The Lions kind of turn on at the end, but they have a ton of injuries. Green Bay got embarrassed. It's Green Bay's home opener. I feel like everything just points Green Bay's direction. Not to mention they have a much better roster and they're a much better football team. I would expect Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams to be on the same page and just torch Detroit and like get out of there with a pretty good home win, giving Packers fans some ease of mind and everybody that watched saying, "Oh yeah, Green Bay is still here. They're still competing for the NFC, and they're still right there for possibly a Super Bowl berth." So I think they'll come out and like show them that they are the team that we thought they were, and that Week 1 was a fluke.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't be a Detroit Lions hype man because there's really nothing to there's nothing to hype. I can't really play devil's advocate and say, yeah, you know what, Jared Goff's really going to come in there. He's going to light it up. They're DeAndre Swift. They're going to quiet down Lambeau Field and get it going. Now I expect Aaron Rodgers to come out early and often, pepper that secondary. If it's not Devontae Adams, he's got Valdez Scantling, he's got Lazard, he's got Tanya and Aaron Jones out of the backfield. AJ Dillon as well out of the backfield. They just have too much, and I kind of expect their defense to get it under wraps too and come after Jared Goff early and often. I just think, yeah, it's kind of Detroit is going into a stadium at the wrong time, right? Packers come off an embarrassing game, and now it's like, all right, well, we're going to put you guys on a poster and smoke the heads off of you guys. I kind of division game, I think it'll be closer. I don't think it's going to be like a wicked blowout because division games always sort of kind of play closer, but Aaron Rodgers, he'll have his way. I think so. Any really closing thoughts? It's kind of not really that exciting of a Monday Night Football game, to be honest. It's a primetime game.
Honestly, the most encouraging thing I can say for Detroit is I would take their points because I 2 possessions is a lot of points to give an NFL team, but for a realistic outcome of them winning, I just don't really see it happening unless we get another abysmal Aaron Rodgers performance.
Yeah, if Aaron doesn't care anymore, if he comes out with that goofing off, laughing on the sidelines as he throws interceptions and kind of fixes the game like it's the longest yard and he's Paul Crew, then we kind of gotta sit back and be worried. But as to this point, I'm gonna think they're laser focused and realize that it's gonna be business as usual come Monday night and get things back on track. So that really kind of wraps it up for the slate of games that we're going to talk about. Obviously, we don't want to really stretch it out and talk about every single game. We just kind of pick the big ones each week, and obviously the primetime games that everybody's going to see on a national stage. So that's kind of the business side. And then we'll jump into kind of wrap the show up. We're going to talk about our week 2 picks against the spread. Obviously, some of these lines could be different. We both, John sent his in, I believe, Tuesday evening. And then I did mine tonight as well as Alex. So we kind of got maybe some different numbers somewhere. They're all kind of in the similar ballpark. Any line that stands out that you really love? You're going to say hammer it home?
I like the Cowboys with the +3.5 on the road. I think they have a very good chance to straight up win the game, and if they don't, I think it will be within a field goal. So I like that one a lot. The one that makes me really nervous is the Titans +5.5, like I mentioned earlier. I'm assuming they bounce back, but you never know.
That's facts. I think my 2 favorites of the week are obviously the Chiefs -3.5. Yeah, I think they roll in. I think they win by at least a touchdown, if not 10 plus. I think they'll just kind of handle business, and the Ravens won't really have much. As we've seen Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't really matter where that guy plays. That guy could play in a park, and he'll still find a way to put up numbers. And then another one I really like is kind of Saints -3.5. It's weird for me saying the Saints, but I didn't really like what I saw out of the Panthers in the second half. They kind of looked like garbage. They came out looking good. They were kind of all over the Jets. Then they kind of like the Jets creep back in, and as Sean Payton, veteran coach, he kind of has his team right where they want them. That defense, I believe they're going to be missing Marcus Lattimore, but I just think they're going to be too smart. They're going to be able to get it going on the ground again. They'll set up Jameis to make easy throws, and Sean Payton will have his boys ready to go. And I kind of like them to win by a touchdown as well.
Not to mention when you got to face a QB like Jameis, it's tough,
Yeah. Yeah, no comment on that. I mean, Jameis had a good week, but yeah, we're not going to entertain that until I see him go up against Tom Brady's
Not
Bucks. Yet. Yeah, not yet. We'll see. Really any closing thoughts as we kind of wrap up the preview of week 2? We get the games going tomorrow night. We get obviously the weekend Sunday coming. Any really wrap up thoughts heading into the weekend?
Excited for the divisional matchups, and I'm really excited to see how the AFC South teams perform in the Titans and Colts and see if they can bounce back.
Exactly. Yeah. High stakes games kind of across the board for week 2. A lot of teams don't want to start 0-2, and a lot of teams that need to clean some things up. Teams that we thought were going to be contenders this year got some work to be done. But that's really going to do it for today's show. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you have any suggestions on how to kind of revamp these previews or even the recaps, just throw them in the comments. We'd like to read it. It kind of helps us really revise the show and make it be the best viewing experience for obviously you guys, the viewers. As always, the Spotify link will be in the description. If you're an audio only person, we post them along with the YouTube videos. And thank everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week for the week 2 recap. on Tuesday.